It's time to join Montana's very own and your voice for agriculture, Talkin' Ag Lane Nordlund, for today's Lanecast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Agriculture Conversation on the Lanecast Ag Podcast. Lane Nordlund here with you today, and today finds us actually here in a wonderful location just east of Billings, Montana, at the Drange Apiary. Apiary. I'm going to screw it up. I even asked you before how to say it, but I didn't say it right again. But Jodie Drange joins us here today along with Dana Jansen, and we are going to be talking about a lot of things here today, but one thing we will be talking about is the Montana Farm Bureau and your involvement in leadership, in education, but also about your family operations and your role in agriculture here in Montana as well. But, first off, Jodie, thanks for hosting us here.
Glad you're here.
We have honey here. We're in one of the warehouses. What's it been like here in the summer of 2025 with the honey harvest? Is that the correct term?
Yep, honey harvest works. It's been better this year than last year because we've actually had the moisture this year, which we're thrilled to have. Today we're not extracting because we can only pull so much, and we want to make sure our honey room is full of honey before we start extracting, and then we'll run about 3 days a week right now extracting honey.
So how long has your family been raising honey here? And tell me more about your background, too, of getting here to Montana.
My husband, Andy, started bees in 1980 as a 4-H project. Then we met at Ohio State. I'm actually from Akron, Ohio. And so I followed him back to Montana. Everybody knew I'd move out west one of these days. But so then I helped him with the honey business. He actually worked as a bee inspector for a while. And then he worked for another beekeeper. And then 15 years ago this year, we bought our own commercial beekeeping operation. We run 6,000 hives, all the way from Laurel to Hysham up to Broadview, and some in Big Timber. And we have about 200 locations that we run our bees on.
Well, I'm going to ask more about that here too, but it's exciting. And again, we have some flies going around here where we got hives around us too. There are some yellow jackets attacking me outside too, but I try to be tough and not dance around too much in front of Jodie, but I got inside at least. And also Dana's joining us as well. Dana, of course, your family ranches just north of here. You and your husband, Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Or, can I say Bubba?
You can say
Bubba.
Bubba. Yeah.
Jeremiah, Bubba,
Yep.
Jansen. About an hour north.
Yep, about an hour north, right at.
Yeah, you got 2 kids there, and you also, though, head up an education program as well and safety awareness. Can you share more about that and the family operation?
Yeah,
too?
absolutely. So, we ranch about an hour north of town. Jeremiah and I came back 10 years ago to take over day-to-day operations from his dad, and we've just sort of assumed full responsibility this year. So it's an exciting time, especially with the way the cattle business is. I mean, selling $3+ calves is a good year to claim that as your first year of full management. So we raise commercial cattle. We raise all of our own hay. We raise all of our own replacement females, and we're pretty fortunate. We've been there. His family's been there since 1912. So we've been there quite a while, and we don't have any plans on leaving just yet. But yeah, like Lane said, I get the opportunity of also having the infamous town job. And it's not a bad gig. So I work for the Montana Farm Bureau Federation, running the Montana Ag Safety Program. So I work with 6 of the premier ag orgs in the state of Montana doing employee safety. And really focusing on farm and ranch safety, because we know it's not if you get hurt in this industry, it's when you get hurt. So whatever we can do to minimize frequency and severity is pretty important.
Well, one thing about it too is we all have our town jobs or whatever it does to support my cow habit. Well, I should actually say horse habit, because horses are still more expensive than cows.
It's true.
And we use horses out on the poise too. But I do want to point out that just like so many people when you come to town on gravel roads, Dana actually had to change a tire on the gravel road coming down here. So we should have just filmed a little of that. We could have cut that into here.
It would have been good,
life on the farm and ranch, coming to town, or the hours that you spend at the tire shop also, as you mentioned too. But I know you both have been a part of the ACE leadership program as well. I do want to highlight that here because leadership, no matter what age you're in. Dana and I grew up in FFA together, actually. She's a few years younger than I was, but you were an FFA rock star. And when you're young and you're going through ag leadership and opportunities, you think, gosh darn, I've learned it all. Well, then the older we get, we understand it's so important to continue to learn about all things, but especially leadership.
Yeah.
And how to become leaders, how to become advocates, how to become voices in agriculture. What is ACE? Can you share the acronym of what that is and why Montana Farm Bureau has invested in their members to help them become better leaders?
Yeah. So ACE is the Advocate, Communicate, and Educate program. And it's a leadership program that takes people that are out in their country and community and doing good things already and giving them an avenue to expand their leadership, because it is, we grow up with oodles of leadership opportunities in school and, throughout college, but then you enter the real world and boy, you realize that there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to make it all happen for those communities to keep running. So it gives good people the tools to do good things.
And Jodie, what did you think about the program when you first heard about it?
I was looking for any leadership. I was at that time where my kids had gone and I needed my next adventure. But to add on to what Dana was saying, we live in our own little ag world. And I really learned when we went to that ACE program, not everybody likes us as much as we like ourselves. And we don't always get our story out. And so I think that's the biggest thing I had as a takeaway is if we don't tell our story, somebody else is. And so that's kind of started my whole life of advocacy after that.
So what are some of the key things that you really took away from or maybe some of the speakers or activities that are helping you be a better leader here with the family business or in your community? What are some of those key things that you really enjoyed and are trying to implement on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think Bruce Vincent from the logger from up in Libby area, I really enjoyed his story of we have to make a happy medium. We're both, and everybody is in the same boat, but we may not see the sides the same way. So we need to find that happy medium and work. People are saying, for us, oh, you're taking their honey away. So we have to explain to them, we don't take all their honey away. They make more than they need, hopefully, on a good year. So, and then we got media training and just how to advocate and tell our story. We had to practice doing some of that.
Yeah. And Dana, from your perspective, how was it going through the program?
It came at the right time too, especially for us. Jodie and I were both the class kind of post the COVID pandemic. And so there was a lot of time to sit and think and really evaluate what was important. And for me, I was looking for that connection because I was active in high school and I was active in college. And then I followed a rancher to the middle of Golden Valley County, and boy, things were lonely. We're a long way from our closest neighbor, and we just needed to be connected somehow. And so that's really where we came back to the Farm Bureau. We'd been, loosely involved with Farm Bureau throughout college because anyone who was anyone was probably in Collegiate Young Farmers and Ranchers or in Collegiate Stock Growers. So, we'd been familiar with Farm Bureau for quite a while. But it really was the place that we were looking to connect. And the opportunity came up to apply for the ACE program. And I said, I think that's it. I was teaching high school agriculture at the time too. And none of the professional development was designed for ag teachers. So we were sitting in 3-day workshops that had nothing to do with our content area. And we were just kind of along for the ride because it was what was available. And so I was looking for that connection and looking to find some way of, connecting with my students better and connecting with the community better because we saw how important it was when that community connection piece kind of disintegrated.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at just the connection of it too, and obviously we have our roles on the family farm or ranch. And so much of the time too is, well, do you pay your dues? Are you active? And some people, I pay my dues, but I'm not active. Or I don't pay my dues because I know they're going to go do the work for me. I hear that a lot from folks too. And that kind of makes me sad in a way too. It's just like you're benefiting from something. But obviously you, through ACE as well, are looking at investing in yourself, just as Farm Bureau and your families are looking at investing in you as well. Because it is an investment, being away from home, being away from your families. Why is it so important to continue to make an investment into yourself and at the same time your family businesses?
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard to justify that. It's hard to justify the time away. I had 2 little kids, and it's just Jeremiah and I on the ranch. And so to take time away and to take time out of the classroom and do the sub plans, boy, there was a lot of soul searching I had to do to say, yeah, this makes sense and it's worth doing. But I keep coming back time and time again to the quote. It has something along the lines of, if not you, then who? If it's not you that's going to do it, then who? Who do you expect to do it? And I think a lot of people just don't have enough confidence in themselves and faith in themselves that they're the person that could be doing it. Especially as we were learning about the history of Farm Bureau. I thought it was fascinating. That's one of the first things we talked about in ACE, was really the history. And you look back at the people and the events, and it wasn't groundbreaking stuff at the time. They were just people that were trying to do what they thought was right for their community. And you don't have to do something big and grand and phenomenal to really make a difference. And so I think that's really where a lot of the drive came from, to say, yeah, it is worth it. It's worth it to invest in yourself and take that time to go further those skills.
Dana mentioned the history of Farm Bureau, and it had 110 years, somewhere around there, 105 for Montana Farm Bureau, somewhere in that range, over 100 years. I know that. And so we're actually kind of a small blimp on the radar in the history of it. So why is that history important to you in knowing that you are a part of something as well? And, we all want to be remembered for something in our lives too, and be a part of it too, but know that there's an overarching goal of being an ag organization that can help keep family farmers and ranchers in business.
I was one of those people, they'll take care of it. I really didn't know what Farm Bureau had to offer. I was a member for years through their insurance program. And then somebody dragged me to a meeting, and they go, hello, the next year I'm on the board. And then go into learning about the history, you're like, wow, this is a program that every agricultural person needs to be involved in. What it does, the policy, the education, the leadership. I was like, yeah, I found my place. I found my family. I found where I was supposed to be. And my family followed right along with me. We knew how important it was. And it's nice to have the backing of all industries in this agriculture, and that's the way it is. It's for all industries in agriculture.
So what is the time commitment, and what is the time frame for participating in the ACE program for participants? Maybe paint a picture for folks that are like, this sounds something like I want to do that.
Yeah, so they've tried to make the time commitment as manageable as possible, because we do understand that everybody has, busy lives, and it is hard to take that time away. So the program does run over the course of a year. So the program starts off in January and then wraps up in November at the annual convention. And it's every other month. And it's basically 2 full days. So you come into the workshop and have a full day and a half, upwards of 2 days of time to interact and listen to speakers, and really have some good one-on-one time with Farm Bureau staff, with your peers in your class. And then you have a whole month to kind of sit and chew and digest the information, and then interact less formally through book club or just through chats with your classmates. Our class did quite a bit of that between times. So it is a year-long commitment, but it's tried to be as manageable as possible.
And we were doing it during COVID, and we even had people coming in on video for the weekends they couldn't be there. And I think they still do a little bit of that. And it's an intense weekend. I always laugh. I ask the new people that go into the ACE program, I said, how were you on that Monday? Wore out. And we're listening to lectures, we're working together, but you're learning so much information at that time. Your brain kind of hurts, but then you get that whole month to just really soak it in and think about it. And it's amazing what you're learning. I learned so much more in that than I have in a lot of things.
And so what were some of the things that you maybe learned from your classmates? Because again, we all have different backgrounds. You're in the bee business, you're in the cattle business, and the egg safety end of things too. We all have different careers, different goals for our families. What was that interaction like?
I absolutely loved it. We had a cool group of people, and we were from all over. And I was sitting there talking to a cattle rancher from up in, where was she from? The
Cascade
area. And she was like, we start talking about our businesses. And we were running our businesses exactly the same way when we were talking about our books and how to do things. So you had that all of a sudden a connection, and we all found a connection between us all. Like I said, we had a good group. And then you could go, well, how are you dealing with this? Or you could call them up and go, hey, have you dealt with this before? So that was so nice to have just new connections and to understand, even though we're in different industries, we're still in the same boat.
Yep.
And really to see the difference in perspective too on some issues. You know, we dive into kind of some of those hot button topics in ag. And so to see the difference in perception of, because how I view it is certainly maybe a different take than how Jodie's assessed it, or how, you know, a wheat farmer in Geraldine would be looking at it, or how a consumer in Billings or Missoula might see it. And so to see all of those different viewpoints was really refreshing, and not in the keyboard warrior, I'm going to defend it in a Facebook comment kind of way. It's we're going to sit down at the same table and look each other in the eye, and we better have it sorted out by the time we leave this room, because we're all eating lunch together when it's over.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
You bring up Facebook. I think Facebook's a very toxic place in general. And I think it takes a lot of courtesy and education opportunities off the table. People just react, and a lot of false news. I saw like they had the fake abduction out of Butte, I think was resurfacing again this week. 2-year-old fake story. Somebody reshared it. Again, there's a lot of misinformation on those platforms, but I see so many farmers and ranchers on Facebook. I know there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of stuff on people's minds. There's a lot of frustrations. You might have had your pivot breakdown today. You might have had cows get out on the highway. We understand there's a lot of stress on people, and sometimes Facebook seems to be a place for folks to take out their frustrations. And maybe that's better than other places. I don't know. But you bring up conversations and whatnot on Facebook. How, from your experience going through these programs, how do we as an industry try to better ourselves from airing our dirty laundry and our issues on Facebook or social media in general?
Yeah, it's hard because that's where the people are.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things that it's like, it's maybe not the place, but it's the only place, it seems like in some cases. And so I know before ACE, I can't tell you how many times I wrote, you know, one of those knee-jerk responses to a comment, and you're like 3 pages in, you've got a 1,000-word essay ready to hit enter. I was like, nope, it's not worth it. Erase it. And so, you know, when we were doing kind of that media training and really fine-tuning what it means to communicate that important information, learning how to phrase it correctly. So now it's maybe you don't have to do that knee-jerk response, but it is put us in a position now where I feel comfortable commenting on some of those things and saying, hey, it sounds like we might have some misinformation. I don't think we've thought about this. And really trying to foster some of those conversations. And if the other side's not willing to do it, it's never going to work. But it has at least helped me moderate some of kind of that.
Yeah.
Like, God, I just hate that. Like, you're so wrong. I can't even begin to explain to you the right answer.
Yep.
And I've actually dealt with it, and the ACE really helped me. Did a TV interview about vaccines and bees, and people took it the wrong way. And this was right after COVID, when vaccine was a cuss word. And so they were like, you're vaccinating your bees. So they went to Facebook, and they're just bashing. I had a whole month long of people just bashing our business, I'm like, I never said we were going to use it. It's actually, that vaccine's for queen breeders. It wasn't even for the common beekeeper. And so I had to learn from what I learned how to come back at them and talk to it correctly, try to get that happy medium. But yeah, they tried to ruin our business through Facebook. So it is scary. Now, I do run every Wednesday. What do we do on Wednesday? But I sell the positive sides, the facts of bees, and show what our business does, and try to show people that what's really happening over what's not and what they hear in the wrong.
You know, Dana, when we were in FFA, every convention and a lot of the ag conventions 10, 15 years ago, there was always a keynote speaker talking about, and there's people, and I tip my hat when you're a road warrior out and about, trying to help people to motivate themselves. That's great, but it was always about being an ag communicator, and you know, you got to be active. You got to tell your story. And I've brought this topic up a lot in some of the podcast conversations I've had, because I think that idea was so great. I think a lot of people still didn't know how to do it correctly. Mm-hmm. But now when we watch social media to so many influencers that maybe are from agriculture, maybe they're not telling all of agriculture story, and it's more like this is all about me. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I have some very good friends that are very good influencers and educators and information sharers, showing what we do. But there are a lot of folks out there that this is all about me, and they share misinformation about that. I think of people that sell beef direct to consumers. There's a lot of misinformation that gets shared about beef on that front, and it's very troubling as a beef producer. So I don't know where I'm rambling with this question, because I understand folks need to be engaged on social media, but it just kind of seems that instead of advocating for agriculture and the real way of life, it's become more self-centered. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but what are your thoughts on that? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot either with it, but it's just so interesting to watch how for 5-10 years it was, you got to tell your story, but people weren't really equipped to tell their story.
It is. And I think that's the biggest thing, is people aren't necessarily equipped to tell their story. And a lot of people don't think they have a story to tell. Like, I think of my husband and I, we don't think our story is worth telling. I mean, maybe it is someday, maybe we will, but we're not going to broadcast our life on social media. That's just not where we feel like that's where our heart has been called to share our story. But there really are I would agree wholeheartedly that sharing your story has become somewhat self-centered and somewhat a way to monetize. You know, there's good money in social media. If you do it right, the money's there. And so sharing the story that applies to the masses, I think, is still not there. And I remember sitting in those keynotes. I mean, it was one after the, I mean, you knew what you were getting at state convention just about every year. And it was somebody that was going to tell you to share your story. But how do we share that story, and what do we tell? I got a kick out of it the other day. I was on Facebook, and a thing popped up out of some marketing group. And it was somebody going on a rant about how, you shouldn't buy your beef from just any backyard breeder, because, you don't know what they're getting into. And so you should buy it from a professional backyard breeder, that finishes out 5 or 10 beef a year. But, you also shouldn't trust those big guys that sell to the feedlots. Yeah. And it's like, oh, how the tides are turning. Like, even the backyard breeder is under attack now by another backyard breeder. And it's like, if we cannot get that under control, no wonder the consumers are confused. They don't know who to listen to at this point, because we tell them a different story no matter where they turn. So it's tough. And I think that's really where programs like ACE shine, is boiling down what is important to this industry. What message should we be sharing, and how do we share it in a way that doesn't drag somebody else under the bus while we're at it? Because it's hard.
I think our biggest thing is to just get the facts out there. Do the education part. Maybe not make it so about you. With our Yellowstone County Farm Bureau page, every Monday I do Ag Fact Monday. I'm looking through all the facts. I'm putting things on there, whether it's about cattle. I've done pineapple. I've done cranberries. Putting those facts out there just so people have a first place to start talking about it. We're not promoting anybody. We're not promoting anybody. We're just saying, here's the facts. Here's how things are grown. Here's how things are done.
And I think it does help to have a face. I think people really just want to put a face to this concept. And, corporate ranches and corporate businesses get a lot of hate. And, it's still just a family. It's still a family out there that's doing the work on the same place that family has been for 110 years. So, I think people want that connection. They just don't necessarily know where to get it. And in the wild world of social media, there's a lot of places where they can get bad information, unfortunately.
You mean your family corporation? Bubba doesn't sit down every night in a tuxedo and gets waited on and,
I wish. If I could find that person, I will give them the address.
Talking about education, I think it's a perfect segue, Jodie, to the fourth grade education that takes place here in Yellowstone County. And you've been involved in that for many, many years. For our viewers and listeners, share more about what this is, how many youth are impacted every single year, and maybe some of the comments you get from kids that went through this. Because again, this is our biggest metropolitan area in the state of Montana. A lot of agriculture around the interstate system, but a lot of kids have never seen where their food comes from. Let's talk about that fourth grade education.
Yeah, so the fourth grade ag education program takes place at the Nile. We bring in about 1,500 to 2,000 children from mostly urban schools in the Billings area and some outskirting areas. And we've even got some rural schools that the kids don't even understand where their food comes from. We have different speakers on like the animals, the livestock. We do weeds and crops and bees and beef and range. So we're speaking on all different aspects of agriculture. I've actually had kids go, chocolate milk comes from a brown cow, because that's what they're still thinking. Last year was so cute. This kid was freaking out. He was walking up by my goats, and I said, "What's up? Are you scared of goats?" He goes, "I've never seen a goat live before." These kids haven't seen these animals. They haven't been around them. They don't understand. So when we're talking livestock, we're talking about pig parts that go into humans, that if we didn't raise pigs, we get more than just meat. You know, these animals provide a lot more for us. And so and most of the kids will say, when you ask, what was one of your favorite things you did when you were in school? And they go, going to the Nile. Yeah. Now, it might be just partly the tractor ride, but they did get a lot out of it.
And for yourself, though, obviously, you feel a calling to participate, to engage with these kids. At the end of every wrap up, when you're reflecting on it, what is that feeling like?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, I'm already starting the next year. What are we doing? What are we going to do different? How are we going to make it better? It's so important. I just really feel the importance. When you've got kids still thinking chocolate milk comes from a brown cow, they really have no clue where their food comes from. They think it all grows in the grocery store, and it's just there. So to me, it's a lifelong passion. I really wanted to do agri-journalism when I was in school and didn't get there. And so it's just my passion.
It's not all it's cracked up to be.
Right. So it's my way of just spreading the words. I am so passionate about what agriculture means to we can't live without it.
So maybe jumping back to your careers as well, Dana, the Montana Ag Safety Program. You mentioned, obviously, we all have town jobs. I BS, again, to pay for my livestock. I think, it could be so much easier if we sold everything and went and lived on the golf course. I'd be a horrible golfer and bored in town, but it might be easier, but I don't want it to be easy. You mentioned you were an ag education and FFA advisor, and then transitioning to the ag safety program. What is that program like, and what's it like working with those ag groups and trying to put safety and all the resources that it does provide for farms and ranches out in the countryside?
Yeah. So I spent 5 years in the classroom as an ag teacher and an FFA advisor, and it was really kind of the COVID pandemic doing ACE that made me reevaluate some personal priorities. We were in a position where I either needed to work from home or we needed a hired man. I was informed we did not have a budget for a hired man. So I said, okay, well, I'll find a way to work from home then. And, I'd been pretty involved with Farm Bureau. Jeremiah and I had joined the county board. I'd done the ACE program. I'd spent a lot of time interacting with the staff, and the director position for the Montana Ag Safety Program had come open. And it's a program that had been around for a long time. It's been around since the 90s. And so I was loosely familiar with it, but I really didn't know much more. And so I said, maybe now's the time. Maybe now's the time to make the switch. And so I applied for this position and took this director of ag safety position with Farm Bureau just about 3 years ago now. And it really has proven to be kind of the perfect blend of what I did in my previous career and what I really want to be doing, which is working directly with those farm and ranch families. They are the salt of the earth. They are the ones that keep the wheels turning out here in rural America, and it is a privilege to call them friends and neighbors. And so what the Ag Safety Program does is it gives these farms and ranches, whether they're corporate farms or family farms or whatever you want to call them, it gives these farms and ranches the tools that they need to get the job done safely. And everybody always jokes, oh, safety first. And honestly, I could care if it's safety second, third, fourth, or however far down it is on your list. As long as it's on your list, I'm tickled. Because, we know that this is a dangerous industry. We work with unpredictable things. We can't control the weather. We don't know what livestock are thinking. There are so many things that can go wrong. It's how do we control what we can control to still get the job done? Because there's not more of us in the ag industry, unfortunately. There's fewer and fewer as the years go on. And so how do we get the job done to feed and clothe the world and do this noble work and steward these lands and keep it for the next generation? Because unfortunately, when things happen on the ranch or they happen on the farm, they're not little incidents. Typically they can be catastrophic, and they really can alter the legacy of a family. I mean, when you're selling the ranch to pay for an insurance claim, or you lose the life of a family member, how do you go back to that day-to-day work? That can be really tough. So, it doesn't come from an OSHA compliance perspective. It doesn't come from a, oh, you're breaking the rules perspective. It's a let's sit down and talk with somebody that is in the industry, that can walk the walk and talk the talk, and figure out how to do it, how to get the job done, and how to do it as safely as possible. Because safety is great until it feels like it slows us down.
Yep.
Then safety sucks.
Yep. I think that's a very good summary of that. Well, thanks for sharing more about that too, because I think it's still so important to share the message of the Ag Safety Program and get folks aware of it, whether it's here in Montana or across the nation, and the programs that are similar. Folks always need to pay attention to that. And, I want to keep talking about our careers too. And so Jodie, here with the apiary, did I say that right?
Yep.
Close enough. You're here, and I commented driving out here. I came out here probably 10 years ago on a tour. But I cannot believe the amount of homes that have just continued to spread eastward. And obviously, that's just an issue we see everywhere in Montana, in metropolitan areas. The farm ground is worth a lot of money, and it doesn't pay much to lease it and try to grow a crop, and you can't pencil it for producers to try and buy. So you are raising bees and obviously are reliant on agriculture spaces to house these. So that's a challenge that you must face too. But what is it like being in this business here in the start of southeastern Montana, which is always weird for me to say Billings is in eastern Montana. Billings is just Billings, I mean, and people always say like Eastern Montana, Lewistown. I'm like, Lewistown is not. It's the heart of Montana. Like, exactly. Don't say that.
According to the bottom of the pool in the Yoga Hotel, that is the geographic center of Montana.
It's like out in a field out in one of the Hutterite colonies is where they actually found it. But they have a nice plaque there still.
They do.
Yogo. Bar fights start over that in Lewistown. But where's the actual geographical center? But obviously it's an issue that so many of us are dealing with, is price of land, exposure. But when we're looking at what is it like though, raising bees and honey and a family business and being an employer here just east of Billings?
As you talked about the land and how it's changed, and we're getting to the point that there's houses growing around us. And I always say I wanted to put a sign out. If you buy on this land, you're going to be buying near a beekeeping operation. That's just how it is. We're here first. Because there was another beekeeping operation that owned this before we did. And with all the land going away, there is no forage for the bees. So it really does affect what we're doing. So we actually put our bees out on different locations where farmers are still available. And that's why we go such a long distance to get to where we can actually lay our bees so that they can work a crop and get a honey crop. I do worry about it because Billings and Laurel, we're on the edge of in between them. And I do wonder what will happen with our place someday.
Yep.
And it's just sad that the kids aren't coming back to the farm like they used to. The money isn't quite there. We're lucky. Our son will be taking over our business someday. He works for us. And I always tell him, you don't have to do it. But he goes, Mom, this is all I know. This is what I'm going to do. So he will come back and take over. Or I should say he is here and he'll just take over.
How old is he then now?
He'll be 28 next week.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
So what does that feel like, though, too, is that you are building a business, your husband and yourself, and again, we have a lot of farmers and ranchers that might be multi-generational listening to this, or they might be first generation tuning in today. But what does that feel like, though, knowing that the legacy that you've helped build with your husband is going to continue on?
It's I don't even know how to put it really in words. We're first generation. And I believe we have a great product, and we have people that come back for our product all the time. We have people begging us for our bees. We sell bees, and so we're helping other beekeepers. We're helping people have good products because we get more than honey from a beehive. So we're selling beeswax and propolis and all kinds of things. So our legacy is just producing that good product that hopefully is always going to be around. Hopefully my husband or my son will find a wife one day and he can continue. Otherwise, it'll be like some of these other beekeepers and there's nobody else to take it over. And I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah. And Dana, kind of same lines. You got two great little kids, a boy and a girl. What do you hope? What do Bubba and you hope? To keep a ranch going and give them the best life possible, but let them know that, hey, agriculture is there. Other careers are out there too, but to see them be involved throughout their lives.
Yeah, it really is the only thing that our kids have ever known. We came back to the ranch before they were born, and that's where they've been. I mean, from day one, they've been there at the ranch, and they see, how important it is. They are 100% bought in to the idea already. I mean, our 9-year-old is busy making plans for when he takes over the place, which realistically is not very far away. I mean, if he wants to come back to the place and his sister wants to come back to the place, we sure hope that it's there for them. So the weight of that responsibility is heavy, and it rides on our shoulders, but what a privilege to be able to carry on that legacy and to ensure that it's there for the next generation. We've seen a lot of neighboring properties to ours sell recently, and it's not families buying them. It's out-of-state land investment companies that are buying them, and they're buying it for the hunting or for just the sheer investment because the money is in farm ground right now. They're not making more of it. Yep. It's becoming less and less. And so, seeing these family operations dissolve is tough. It's tough to watch, and it's tough to know that yours could be the next one. You're one greedy family member, you're one legislative agenda, you're one step away. We're never far from a drought. We're only ever 2 weeks from a drought. And so there are so many things that can go on that how do we do the best we can with what we've got right now and hope that it's there. And, programs like ACE and Farm Bureau and, the stock growers and the grain growers, they all play such an important role in that of giving and building this community of like-minded people that know what you're going through, because it's not something that makes sense unless you're in it every day. And so sometimes it's hard to see the forest for the trees. But it really is when you build this community of people and you have a chance to cultivate your leadership while you're at it and connect to this community and influence the people around you, to be able to influence those policymakers and to influence your neighbors and to influence the people that you walk by in the grocery store, like that's powerful. And I certainly hope that my kids understand that and that they'll feel the same call to this responsibility that we have. But if they don't want to, we'll support them in that too. But we sure hope that they're gonna make a run at it for the next generation.
What are some of the biggest things, maybe headlines or issues, that you're watching in agriculture right now?
I think right now, seeing what happens with this cattle rebuild, the herd rebuild is slow. We thought we were going to see it, and we're not. So it's, it's a heck of a thing to be able to sell $3 or $4 calves. What does it look like, though? What does it look like a year from now? What does it look like 6 months from now? There's a lot of uncertainty. And I think that uncertainty is the overriding theme of any headline, whether it's the tariffs or the cattle market or, the wheat market or whatever it is. Uncertainty is probably the biggest thing.
Same question,
Yeah.
Jodie.
Our biggest one is foreign honey coming in here. Right now in Congress, they're working on the Honey Integrity Act. And they bring that honey in so cheap, and then they mix it with American honey, and we're not making any more money. Our prices for running our equipment, running our business is going up. We're not getting any more money per pound per hive because they can bring all that foreign honey in cheaper. And some of that honey is altered, and they're trying to catch some of that and do that. But that is probably one of our biggest problems in the honey industry right now, is keeping that foreign honey out, so that, and if it does come in, it has to be unaltered and same price that they're paying us, so that we all make money.
Well, again, very big issues and similar issues to conversations around beef as well.
Yeah, and you realize how much nuance there is. There's so much more to the story than gets painted in a couple of headlines. And when you really start digging into that, you realize what a small piece of the puzzle you actually are, and how many conversations are happening, at a national level or even at an international level to keep the world spinning in the way that it should be spinning.
Or how many issues don't make the headlines because they're resolved before it becomes an issue. When we talk about advocacy out in Washington, D.C., when the American Farm Bureau is working on something, and maybe Montana Farm Bureau is working on it with them too, it doesn't become an issue because they headed off at the pass maybe. There is just so much out there that, again, we just want to be out in the countryside doing what we do. So it is nice to know there is people helping us have a voice. So what are some last things you just want to share with our listeners and viewers here today? I mean, we've been going for well over 40 minutes here, and I know you both got busy days. I don't want to hold you up much longer, but what are just some things you want to share about your experience with ACE, Farm Bureau, just life in agriculture? I'll let you have the floor. If we're talking about Bobby's Rules of Order, you can have the floor.
Yeah. So, I think for me, it really does come back to the, if not you, then who? And I know I've already said that, but I do think it's so important that there are so many good things that are going on, and so many good people that are out there doing the work, that if you can find somebody to lean on, somebody to give you the tools that you need, somebody to give you the connection that you're looking for to help that further, man, that's special. Jeremiah and I think a lot about what do we want in life. We're not in it for the money. I mean, even with calf prices like this, it's not the money. It's, we want to be generous with our time, and we want to be generous in giving to those, because we took advantage of so many of those opportunities, whether it was scholarships or camps or, industry connections. We want to be that for somebody else. And so programs like ACE really are the door. I mean, they're the door to get you into some of those, and realize that it does take people to make those opportunities happen. They don't just happen on their own. I mean, it takes a concerted effort of people that really care to make sure that we have vibrant rural communities.
So yeah, ACE really just started me on a total advocacy journey, that I now take even a cow, a milking cow, we take to classrooms, show kids where they can how to milk a cow and how to make butter. They don't even understand that. Farm Bureau has become a family. I don't know what I'd do without it, because I can call Dana, I can call somebody else in my board members or something, and say, hey, I'm dealing with this. How can you help me? Have you dealt with this? And just as we were saying, you're dealing with prices, we're dealing with prices. We're all in different commodities, but we're all the same. And so policy has been a huge issue for us in the beekeeping industry. We have rules in Montana that are different than other states, but we have Farm Bureau's backing to make sure that those rules stay in place. There's a reason that the beekeepers have put those in place. So to me, Farm Bureau has just been a real agricultural experience that's become family, that's taught me a lot, and I want to just completely embrace it and share it with everybody I can.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining us here today, and thanks for hosting us in the middle of honey harvest season 2. So, but again, thank you both, and for our friends tuning in today You can learn more about the ACE program by visiting Montana Farm Bureau online. And again, that next class we'll be taking submissions here in just a few months. And for more on all the work Farm Bureau does, visit them, as I mentioned, mfbf.org. With that, friends, thanks for joining us on the Agriculture Conversation. Thank you both for being with us. Thank you for joining us as well. I'm Lane Nordlund. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lanecast with Talkin' Ag, Lane Nordlund. Don't forget to subscribe to the Lanecast on your Apple or Android devices. We look forward to joining you next time on the Lanecast.